Welcome to Home Remodeler Toolbox, the podcast dedicated to empowering remodelers and builders to build and grow successful businesses. Join your host, Bob Vance, founder of Home Remodeler SEO, as he brings you industry insights and strategies that will help you build a thriving business, no matter what level you're at in your business. Whether you're a thriving multi-million-dollar business or you're working on building your business from the foundation up, this podcast is your go-to source for industry secrets and actionable strategies that you can implement in your business to get to that next level. So, turn on, tune in, and let's help you build your business foundation one building block at a time.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome today to the Home Remodeler Toolbox Podcast. Really excited today to bring a special guest on our show. This is a man that is truly leading the industry, and there is not much hyperbole when it comes to that. We are talking about someone that has been the number one CEO in America for the Power 100 for the last 3 years in a row. Winning an award like that once is probably something to really jump up and down about, but 3 times lets you know you're talking to a true veteran and a true mover and a shaker in this industry. I'm really happy to have on our show today James Freeman, the CEO of PJ Fitzpatrick, a home improvement company that is dominating the Philadelphia market and spreading into other markets. These guys do roofing, siding, gutters, windows, doors, remodeling, handyman stuff. These guys pretty much can take care of your house from inside and out. Really excited to talk about the growth that PJ Fitzpatrick has went through since hiring James as the CEO. We got a lot to unpack today, so let's jump right in. James, thanks a lot for being on our show today. Really happy to have someone of your caliber visit it with us today.
Bob, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's I guess let's say, just kind of tell me, your role there with PJ Fitzpatrick, a little bit more about your company, if I didn't do it enough justice there, just kind of, and how you came to be the CEO there at PJ Fitzpatrick.
So CEO for PJ Fitzpatrick. I'm focused on executive leadership, strategic planning, ensuring that ultimately that, the right pieces are in the right places at the right time to be able to take care of not only the team that I'm supporting, but the customers. We are an exterior remodeling business, so we look to focus on anything that you need in the outside of your home, as well as we do wet area bath systems. So you think about tub to shower conversions. A lot of times aging in place is a big part of that, the customer segment there. We're also doing wet area bath systems with jacuzzi bath remodeling. And it's a 40-year-old business. It started with, the PJ Fitzpatrick is Peter John Fitzpatrick, a guy who believed if you wanted to offer quality products and quality service to a customer, you put your name against it. And I always think that was a pretty bold thing to do in a time where you could pull out the yellow pages and your home address, your home phone number is there. But he really believed and had practices focused on his team members that he supported and the customers that were really ahead of the time for the construction industry. So great company with a great foundation. I joined them in July of 2020. They were in a period of stagnation. They were doing great work, taking care of their people, taking care of their customers, but weren't growing. And we're watching good people leave their business to find new opportunities to move forward in their careers. And they made a decision that they wanted to grow, and they wanted somebody to come in that had experience taking businesses and in short periods of time being able to put them in position to grow, be successful, and create opportunities for the people that are there as a result. So that's how I ended up coming in, and we're a little under 5 years since that happened, and we've seen some pretty cool growth.
Great. Yeah, we're going to jump into that growth here in a little bit because it is truly just mind-popping, just staggering. So I want to hear a little bit more about that. But I guess let's kind of back up a little bit, back to your humble beginnings and how you really got started kind of in home improvement and really servicing homes. Where you got, obviously you weren't born a CEO, but you have certainly shown that you're a natural at it. Tell me about your beginnings a little more.
So, I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So if anybody's ever heard of the Amish, that was my backyard. Came from a small town with big town aspirations, being close to Philadelphia. went to school locally in the central Pennsylvania area through college, and got an opportunity to start my career with Dish Network. And when I started with Dish Network, that was in 2020. They were probably the top little bit above top 10 of the satellite and cable TV providers in the country. They weren't very well known. All my entire family still thinks I work for DirecTV, not Dish Network. But that was a conversation I had to navigate because people didn't know who we were. They didn't know what we were offering. And I was there during a period where they grew their reach, their audience, and also the amount of subscribers they had as a result. So it was a very high paced, high velocity growth, and it was addictive. I loved being involved in an environment where we were pressing new boundaries, both from an offering standpoint, from a technology standpoint, and it really kind of fueled the start of my career. After I, had a number of positions there, spent some time moving around the country, chasing roles in that business, I wanted to come home to the Philadelphia area. And one of my largest retailers that I supported for Dish Network when I was managing the Philadelphia market was looking to expand beyond an installation or operation into a sales and installation operation. So I came on there and was part of a growth from being in the Philadelphia area to being in 15 offices from Virginia Beach up through Maine. It was during it mirrored that time where Dish Network was growing pretty rapidly, expanding their brand and their presence in markets. And we were doing really well there. And I was getting a chance to see more and more of the customer journey, from how you market through you provide a product to them at the end of the day. Cable companies started to catch up with the satellite companies from a technology offering. They started offering internet. They started offering triple play phone services. And it was the first time that satellite TV kind of was on its heels. And so our owners made a decision to get into natural stone fabrication. So natural stone quartz and other engineered products like that, providing fabrication services for kitchen, bath, and other products in home and a business. And you're like, whoa, satellite TV, countertop fabrication. We sold a product to a customer. We installed a product for a customer. We serviced it when necessary. Within that role, I was running the sales and marketing portions of the business, but over a 15-year period, I was able to not only help grow that business rapidly, but also in a sustainable fashion. I was able to launch a few sister businesses, one that was in standby generation. I was able to be part of rebranding that satellite TV provider to a smart home technology company. And in doing so, grew into the role from focusing on sales and marketing to pulling into a chief operating officer role, where I was really responsible for all aspects of the customer journey, from selling, developing the leads, to making sure we were paying our people and our bills on the back end of the business. And I was lucky because I had an ownership group that was very hands-on, but they gave me a lot of autonomy to try new things, to learn new lessons, and sometimes to fall short and learn from those moments. But what they allowed me to do was develop an understanding of what's necessary in each part of that customer journey. And in turn, when the opportunity for PJ Fitzpatrick came to be able to lead this great organization, I was ready for the moment. I didn't have to get prepared. I was ready for it. And it doesn't mean that things were easy. It doesn't mean that things weren't. I didn't have any other lessons along the way. I had more lessons than probably wins along the way, but I was ready to be able to support leaders, as opposed to being a person that does, being a person who demonstrates and ensures that people have the ability to repeat that for the long term. So it's been an interesting career, but every step of the way, I've been in scenarios where we were growing rapidly. We were pressing the boundaries of what an industry thought was possible. And that's cool when you're a change agent and you actually not only see your improvements, but you see other businesses improve and strive for more because they're following in your footsteps.
Yeah. Well, something you said to me in a previous conversation. People and businesses that are open to learning, that are flexible in their mindsets, that are nimble in their operations. Those are the companies that are going to grow. And that's kind of what you're talking about here, right? Just learning lessons along the way. You're not born a CEO, but there's a heck of a lot you can learn along the way if you're your eyes open and they're open to those learning lessons, those learning opportunities that are presented to you every day.
Absolutely. I mean, I never heard it framed this way till I came to PJ Fitzpatrick, but you either win or you learn. So while I had that type of mindset and that approach, I probably dwelled on losses in different ways before I had that reframe thought of, if you fall short of a successful outcome, but you find the way to be able to reach that the next time or position yourself to reach it next time, you won. And it's kind of like if you think back to old sales adages, for every no, you're pushing yourself towards the yes. Well, every lesson that you have, which some people term a loss, that lesson gives you the chance to be better and be more prepared the next time. And I think it's important because when we give for people permission to fall short, they're willing to try to strive for more as opposed to keeping themselves in kind of a comfortable constraint of what they know is possible. So it takes time, it takes dedication between you and your team to be able to agree on what that whole process looks like. But I think one of the big things that we do when we plan is we always talk about what does success look like, what could get in the way of success, what are we going to do about it, and by agreeing that this is what we're striving for, when you fall short along the way, it's just part of the course correction process to get there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you guys really put a huge focus on learning, on education, on making mistakes but learning from it. A lot of things to do with just personal growth as well as professional growth. I know you have a kind of a learning university within your company. There's a lot that goes into your company culture there at PJ Fitzpatrick. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I I say this often, but I take no credit for the culture here. The foundation of what makes PJ Fitzpatrick great today existed that long before I ever walked in the door here. What maybe was lacking at PJ Fitzpatrick was the belief that they were capable of more. They knew that they were good at what they were doing. They knew that they were good at the level they were, but the question of whether they could grow and still be that same organization was left trepidation in the minds of the owners and the leaders. And when I met this team for the first time, I was like, oh my Lord, here we go. Because it was a great team with great systems, technology driven, paperless, ahead of a lot of the players in the exterior construction remodeling industry. So for me, it was really kind of just getting them pushed and the very first presentation I did, I had a picture of a flywheel as the first slide. And I was like, it's going to be hard to get this bad boy going, but as we get it going, it's going to start to feed on its own energy. And I remember the eyes and looks of the people in that room when I told them we were going to do $100 million by 2025. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And that same group of people is all part of us doing 150 million in 2024. And at the end of the year, when I said, hey, we're bringing on a new acquisition and hey, I want to think about what our next products are, they said, no problem, let's go. And so that energy, like we say with the flywheel example, starts to feed on itself. But it does come back to people need to feel comfortable that when you make a mistake, when you fall short, as long as you process it the right way and learn from it, it's okay. And one of the things we have a process called green carpet orientation, GCO. Every employee, whether you're a C-level or a person who works in our call center or sales or the warehouse, everybody starts the same way that same day. And I tell them, I'm like, every one of you is going to do one thing the same this month. You know what it is? Nobody answers it right. I said, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to fall short. And it's okay. It's okay. And I think sometimes just giving that permission allows it. Now, we support that style and mindset with that PJ University, which has always been a dream of mine forever, like in businesses, like being able to have a team that is going to actually elevate the rest of the team and be focused on how we can help them professionally. Because ultimately, if you help people professionally, a lot of those lessons and teachings can carry over into their personal life. PJ University is a dedicated organization within our HR group. We focus on technical training, the things you need to be able to do the job. We focus on developmental training, things that are going to help you be better as a person and also professionally. And we focus on leadership training. And we call it our emerging leadership program because oftentimes we wait for a person to be ready for a role to be ready. And you go, that's a great salesperson. They could be a great sales manager, or they're a great installer and they're good with people. They could be a great manager of the installers. And then they get into their first, they have to do a review, or they have to provide constructive criticism, or they're problem solving with a customer in a challenging moment. And it's the first time they've ever done it. So that emerging leadership program is almost like a prerequisite to applying for leadership and management roles, because we want you to be ready. One of my favorite quotes is "Luck favors the prepared," Louis Pasteur. And we want to be focused on being able to take advantage of the opportunities as they come in front of us. We do that by being prepared for them.
Yeah, and you also talked about believing in yourself, not only you, but you're instilling that within your employees as well. And you mentioned that as one of the true reasons why PJ Fitzpatrick is really moving forward and succeeding at such a rapid pace. Just that the belief, the belief that you can do it, the belief, whether it be individually or as a company, as an interdepartmental team. How do you instill that belief in your team? I mean, you touched on it there, but for people that maybe just don't have that self confidence, or they're afraid to make a mistake, how do you really get them to believe, to that I like when people reverse that. You have to believe it to see it. You have to believe first, and then you can see the result of it. How do you instill that belief system in your whole company? And you're up there, what, over 400 employees now, I think?
Actually, I think this past Wednesday we were 498, so we're about to celebrate a big number. Uh, I spent a lot of, as successful as I've been able to be in my career, I spent a lot of my career racked with self doubt. Um, I think a lot of leaders feel like imposters in the moment because they're learning things for the first time, they're experiencing things for the first time, and they're supposed to be the ones that kind of know what's going on. So I didn't. I came from we came from a different world of leaders and a different approach to how people think about business. We grew up in the practice makes perfect type of environment, which that's a whole separate conversation there, as we talked about before. But no one was saying, "Hey, James, it's okay. You made this mistake, but what did you learn?" That type of dialogue didn't exist throughout my career. So it left me in moments where I had to continue to kind of press myself. But I did. As much as I was scared, as much as I doubted myself, I always pressed myself forward. And what I realized as I had an opportunity to get into more of being in the business of people versus the business of whatever we're doing, selling, producing, I realized that I could take that same approach as the leaders that supported me did, and just let people kind of go. Or I could be heavily involved, and I could make sure to recognize very, very quickly when they do the right thing, be able to put my arm around them when they need support, getting to know the people, what's important to them, what's their why, all of these different approaches that are kind of more of what leading and managing is in the 2020s as it was maybe in the 2010s and earlier, allowed me to kind of reframe that, hey, I'm here for you. You're going to succeed if you want to succeed, and I'm here to help kind of navigate the moments when you aren't. And I think part of it is just not leaving people out to their own devices. I was left that to my own devices. I work with our managers to make sure that they stay engaged with their people, that I stay engaged with them, that they're doing those healthy one-on-ones, that they're not just mailing it in, they're actually having conversation, learning about their people, because the more we understand what motivates those around us, the more we can help them be positioned to take advantage of what motivates them. So I think we've been able to grow because I've been able to take a little bit and of what I've seen that's worked for me. I've also seen a lot that I didn't like about throughout my career, and then work with our leaders, work with our HR teams and managers to be able to make sure that we do the right thing by our people. Luckily, I was in a scenario where a lot of the lessons that I probably needed 10 years ago, I could have learned at PJ Fitzpatrick by just going there a little bit earlier. So I'm really lucky that from Peter Fitzpatrick, who was the founder, down to his daughter and his son-in-law Teresa and Rick, who bought the business from him in 2009. They're not only good people, they're like the type of people that they're the salt of the earth, because they are always thinking about somebody else first and then realizing how that may help them get to where they want to be. Like, it's a really cool place to be.
Yeah, it really sounds like it. Amazing culture there. Amazing leadership team with you and beyond you. One of the things that we were talking about before is and I mentioned in my introduction is you being the number one CEO in America for the Power 100, and not only winning it once, but winning it 3 years in a row, and my gosh, that says enough in and of itself. But the thing that struck me when I asked you about winning that award was you saying, "I didn't win that award. Our team won that award." That's, I mean, just kind of expound upon that. You're a humble guy, but you certainly deserve a lot of credit. You're very smart. You've picked up so many lessons along the way, and you don't stumble into being a number one CEO or a CEO for a company that's size and success that PJ Fitzpatrick has had without putting in the work and the time to better yourself. But just talk about a little more about your philosophy there.
So, I mean, I hate, I love the recognition, as I said, because it's great, because it is truly about the team. I'm not necessarily in the business that we're in. I run and support and lead our next year remodeling business, but I'm not hammering a nail this year. I'm not in a home selling. I'm not answering a phone. I am focused on being able to put people in positions to be successful. They still need to execute. I can put them in the right position. They need to still make it happen. So, at the end of the day, it always comes down to the people that are in the field, standing in front of the customers, working with them and growing. But one of the things that I realized pretty early on here, and I'm going to use the term opportunity. Opportunity is a set of circumstances that makes it possible to do something. And I always reframe that as, okay, that a set of circumstances are the conditions that allow for your people to be successful. So I spent a lot of time from a strategic standpoint, being out in front of the business, thinking about what needs to be in place for us to be able to be successful when the business catches up with me. What bumps in the road can I make go away? How can I smooth them so at least it's a less rocky road as they go forward? I can work to be ahead of the business, be able to set up the right conditions for success, and then complement that with giving them the tools via education, ongoing training, systems, technology, processes, so that when they get there, they're able to take advantage of it. Because to be able to have success, you need to have opportunity. And that's where I'm really focused on making sure that I give our team the best chance for success. So if that gets us some accolades along the way, that's a nice little extra benefit. But what it really does is it leads to happy customers. And when I took over PJ Fitzpatrick, they were a $25 million business that wanted to grow. But we were really focused on growing within the same body. And by same body, I mean the same mindset in terms of the customer experience, the employee experience. And we're 4 years later, and our Google review scores have gone from 4.6 to 4.8, while we were growing from 25 to 150 million. But even more importantly, our Glassdoor scores have improved. The way people feel about us, our employees. So again, we've had some great awards, but it's also because we've brought on some great people. We've invested in them. We've given them the tools to be successful, and they've gone out and crushed on a day-to-day basis. And when they do that, then we actually our core values and core purpose live in our business, but our core purpose is our guide, and it's making life better one home at a time. So breaking down those moments into small moments where we get consistent victories, that's all. Those awards are fun, but it's those day-to-day successes in a way that, as I mentioned to you before, our people are getting married, they're having kids, they're buying homes, and that's because they feel secure in the environment where they work. And those are better than, that's the best rewards that I can have, is watching people feel comfortable to grow personally because they're comfortable professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just sharing that with my team. We had a couple people, younger folks, a few years out of college that just were able to move out and get their own place for their first time in their life. They were living with their parents, and for these two folks and these two employees of ours, this both happened last week, and they said this would not be possible without you, Bob, without your company, without the opportunity that you provided. There's that word again, opportunity, and it's we're all given opportunities throughout our entire lives, but it's really what you do with that opportunity that really matters the most.
It's the old Michael Jordan adage. I think it's Michael Jordan. You only make the shots you take. That's what opportunity is about. But part of the opportunity is not being afraid to take the shot, and taking away that fear of 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 not winning. Um, really empowers employees to not only trust you, but also that they're part of an organization where you want to be better every day, better tomorrow than you are today. Be great today, be better tomorrow is one of the things that I say a lot often.
Yeah. 1% better every day. That's it. 1%. Because it a small number. Yeah.
Percent.
Yeah, it gets to be a really big number over 365 days in a year. That 1% compounding daily. People I don't think they really look at that and think, wow, that could really make a difference. That 1%.
Oh, 100%. It's an actual, we use the in the business, the philosophy power of one. So we look across our entire business, and 1%, 1 point, one person, any way that we can make small improvements, because when we make a lot of small improvements, they end up having a far larger impact than maybe those little moments felt.
Yeah, some of the parts greater than the whole, something like that. I've heard.
100%.
100%. Yeah. Um, One of the things that you mentioned that really it helps your company success, company culture, is a philosophy that you mentioned to me. I'm not sure if you got this from a book, maybe you mentioned, but the start, stop, keep philosophy, doing one-on-one interviews with every employee every month, and you're 490 employees, so that obviously is a task in and of itself for your HR department. But talk a little bit more about that start, stop, keep. So maybe people can kind of clue in and maybe adapt that into their company and see if what kind of changes that they can see that are possible.
So start, stop, keep um, is a process that had, it lived within the business when I got here, but probably in a small fashion. It was probably talked about more in terms of a desire to be that way than it was a practical application of it on a day-to-day basis. One of our owners was really focused on that type of product or that type of solution for their people in a different business, and saw a tremendous amount of success. So he really pressed me to understand what start, stop, keep was. He really took some time to make sure I could understand the type of benefits it could bring to our organization. And it's really about that I can sit here and think what's going on in the field. And I'm a smart guy, you're a smart guy, and we can go, okay, this is probably what our people are dealing with. And we can work on an Excel spreadsheet and say, this is how the math should work and how things should go. But really, it's the people that are out there in front of customers, supporting them, whether they're selling or producing, that understand what challenges they deal with and need to, and probably have the best solutions to provide real-time support to being able to overcome that challenge. So start, stop, keep allows us to ask. And so we started one first by incorporating this into every one-on-one that we do. And we do one-on-ones monthly with every employee in our business. Once you get to a manager level, it goes it's every 2 weeks, and it's a little bit of a different type of interaction. But both of them are very, very employee focused. What should we start doing? These are the things that we aren't doing. What should we start doing? What should we stop doing? We're doing this, and this is how it's impacting our business. What should we keep doing? These are things that we're doing that are the right thing, and we want to make sure that management knows that we think this is the right way to go. It's not just the thought; it's the thought plus why. Because the why allows you to take it from being a personal to being more about how does this benefit the team? How does this benefit the company? How does it benefit the customer? And ultimately, most of the good decisions we make and feedback that we get that actually becomes change within our business comes from the teams that are providing that start, stop, keep. Now, we are actually taking that to a whole new level in 2025, where we actually have we're starting the process of group start, stop, keeps, where, like, for example, let's say our team in Philadelphia that sells window and doors, they can come and stand in front of us and talk about these are the things that we need to do, start, stop, keep in as a group. Now, start, stop, keep isn't just about collecting the information. It's about processing the information and making change, but also communicating back to that person or that team, hey, great idea, we're doing this. Great idea, but we can't do this because of this restriction or this. What else how else could we reapproach this? Or, hey, we can't do this because we're going to do this, but we can't do it today, and here is why. It's not about collecting information; it's about talking about that information and building clarity between all the parties that are involved, the providers and the people that are taking that information and trying to create change within the business. And the reason that's important is, as we were a small $25 million business, we were like a speedboat. But now we're like a cruise ship, and it takes some time to make a turn and sometimes to turn around. But we are willing to do it because, I mentioned this before, we are very much into rethinking our solutions to old problems based on the new information and new knowledge and the updated knowledge we possess today. So part of this is sometimes just getting the push to be willing to make a change because your team makes it known to you that it's really important. It's a great energy. It's something that builds. One of our owners said we should always treat people like they may one day own a business. So by teaching them to not only say I want something, I don't want something, but to accompany it with functional thought that allows them to define it and to be able to really say this is why, whether it's a should do it or not do it, really builds that a better level of understanding of what we expect from them, but also builds problem solving and critical thinking skills within people who maybe don't get that type of training, guidance, and support on a day-to-day basis. So I want to look at I want everybody to be with PJ forever, but if they go out and they open their own business someday and they're responsible for leading others, I want them to be prepared for that. And this is a really great energy that we've been able to create. And again, like a lot of really cool ideas.
Yeah, empowering them to be the best versions of themselves.
100%. And empower them to be 100% best versions of themselves by letting them know that they can never be at their peak. There's a lot of self-limiting thought that guides what they believe they're capable of. And by taking away the ceiling and saying, hey, you're only going to go as far as you're willing to push yourself. And the more that you're willing to push yourself, the farther you're going to go. That type of energy then coupled with being able to think critically, to be able to problem solve, to be able to look at problems and provide solutions, not gripes. When you start doing that at all levels of your business that flywheel is going to start to go even faster.
Yeah, absolutely. We have that in our company, kind of what I call our commitment to excellence, which is a slogan stolen from the old Oakland Raiders, that's always stuck out in my mind ever since I was a kid. But strive for perfection, and you might find excellence along the way.
Yep.
Which is different from their slogan, but we're never going to be perfect. Like you said, you can't ever reach that peak of greatness, but you can sure strive to get there each and every day, and you're probably going to find some really good results along the way on that journey.
Did you ever hear the name Roger Bannister?
The runner,
Yeah,
yeah, 4-minute mile, yeah.
4-minute mile. 4-minute mile was impossible.
So it was possible. No one could do it.
Now the record's 3 minutes and 43 seconds now.
Yeah.
Our CFO's son runs 4 minutes and 10 seconds and runs at Virginia Tech. And he's a great runner, obviously, but he's not at the top of the pack. That's that whole concept that everything's impossible till it's done. And if you're willing to say this is as far as I can go, then that's as far as you're going to go. I really try to get our people to think in an uncapped fashion.
Yeah. Yeah, the cool thing about that, Roger Bannister finally, breaking the 4-minute mile, first person to ever do it. No one had ever done it up to that point in the course of history. And once he broke it, like everyone started doing it. Not everyone, but several other runners did it. It was, and like you said, it's about the mindset, the belief.
We're so much more far capable than what we believe because we can only strive for what we know. And I think that's the challenge. We talked a little bit earlier about me being out in front of the business. To be successful as a leader, you have to get really comfortable in an uncertain moment. You don't have a lot of definition. You might not have a lot of structure around your thought, but being able to be comfortable to be in your mind in that way is difficult. So the more and that's start, stop, keeps, communication cycles, pressing people to have uncapped thoughts around what they're able to do are all things that allow you to push yourself into a zone of an uncomfortable zone. But you can't lead any organization if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah, so it's just, again, it comes back to how can I best position them to be a successful manager, a successful person, and if someday tasked with leading others, they're ready for it.
Yeah, yeah. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, and in
100%.
those moments of uncomfortableness, you will push through, you will break through that other side, and then become comfortable with that new situation that now you feel empowered to you handled it. You've got no problem. That was okay. That was easy. What's next? And then
Yeah,
you get uncomfortable again, and that cycle just keeps repeating.
yeah, and that's the part that I kind of mentioned earlier is like the group of people that, you know, were eyes big as bugs, like when I told them we're going to do 100 million, are the same people who are like, okay, what's next? Let's go. Because
Yeah.
they now believe in themselves and what they're capable of. They're carrying that same torch down to their teams. My managers are managing managers. In some cases, they're managing a manager. So in that scenario, being able to just continue to push people forward, and sometimes it's big steps, sometimes it's small, but constantly moving forward is what has enabled us to be successful. And again, is what has enabled us to build energy around people being prepared for the moment. Whether you're a manager, whether you're a lead installer, you have an opportunity to be great. Take advantage of it when it's in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. The team makes the dream, right? Um,
Mhm.
you mentioned you talk a lot about the team and just instilling that belief and that sense of confidence and really attributing a lot of your success to that. And I wholeheartedly buy into that. But I'm going to push back here and say, ask you what have you done from like an operational standpoint or a sales methodology standpoint to become so successful? Because when you came into PJ Fitzpatrick, 25, 27 million or so, and now you're skyrocketing past 150 million on your way to 200 million in sales. So there's a lot that goes into that. What do you think has really stood out in terms of some of the things that you've done that have made you so successful that maybe companies like yours or maybe smaller remodeling companies that they can also implement those things to help them on their journey and their path to greater success?
So I do a lot of speaking on technology and specifically with AI now, and typically I'll show a visual of our tech stack, and it like, ooh, because they see how much is involved in each step of the customer journey, based on the visual that we show and the amount of tools that we have. And I think what I've been able to do here is be able to roll that back and say, we want to get to this place. We want to have the right CRM. We want to be able to have the right supporting technologies for our marketing teams. But we can't get caught up in trying to get everything at once. We just have to make decisions and continue to move forward. So I've been able to really be pretty good at slowing that flywheel down to say, okay, what's most important to this moment? Um, Tell me, why is this important? And I've got better, and I still got a lot of work to do here, but I've got a lot better at, as opposed to providing solutions to my team, asking questions that allow them to start getting their thoughts in front of me, and then being able to help guide them and fine tune them with them, because now they're more bought into that idea. That took time to get to that point. My manager, the people that I had 7 managers that were turned over to me, and they were all managers at this point when I came to the company. We had a CFO, and the rest of the people were in manager roles. 5 of those 7 people are now my VPs and my C levels. 2 of them retired. So I'm batting 100 right now. You don't have to do that often. But I didn't snap my fingers and help my sales manager become my vice president of sales. I did it because I put a lot of time into him. I learned about him. I learned about what his strengths were. I got a good gauge of where he had opportunities to make improvements. And I got into that via that one-on-one, that 2-weeker process of tell me about you. So I spent a lot of time getting to know the people, the processes, and what we wanted from a business, from a success standpoint. And then I started to help people figure out how to get there themselves. Because by allowing them to figure out how to get them there themselves, the pattern's repeatable. They can do it the next time. by teaching them that way and saying, hey, this is what I did, they can then replicate that behavior to do that for the next person. And ultimately, when we do new things now, I might not be involved in the process other than kicking it off and getting a checkpoint along the way and getting the end result, because I've invested the time to prepare them to do the things that I would have done if I were in their shoes. Because most of what I do is about people. I'm most certainly involved in processes and technology, but I think I've done a really good job of putting the right people in the right seat and giving them the right support to thrive. And I do that because I'm very clear with them of what I think success is. I'm very clear that I understand the challenges they're going to face, and I make it very clear to them that I'm here for you. I'm not here for you when you're successful. I'm here for you when you're successful. I'm here for you when you don't feel good. I'm here for you when you don't feel confident. And I'm here sometimes just to be an ear if you need me to not be in solve mode. You just need to be somebody you can bounce ideas and bounce concerns or feelings against. So I think as much as we've made a tremendous amount we've launched a new CRM that runs our entire business. We've adapted new technologies. We've continued to press into the paperless new world that we live in of, where we just do things differently and we do things more automated. I've spent a lot of time early demonstrating how to handle those moments. And now I'm able to sit back and kind of guide them and stay focused on what's next. And long rambling answer to say that most of the time is I think my greatest successes here have been my successes with our people, with, creating leaders who are creating leaders who are creating leaders, while also not having too many steps between me and the next person. We live by that GE model of five. There should be, from me there should be no more than 5 points, because a person should feel comfortable to knock on my door and talk to me. And they should be able to feel comfortable to talk to their manager and the next manager, following the process, but also building that energy that we're all here chasing that same goal, that same core purpose. So I'm just really proud of my team and the way that I can give them the tools, they've got to use them. And they really have been focused on making themselves better. And, that's something I want to keep doing. It's so addictive to help people.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I love the some of the things you mentioned are tenets and philosophies from the entrepreneurial operating system, right? EOS.
Yep.
It's surely a company of your guys' stature and success has implemented some EOS, if not full implementation. But I do the same thing, James, where I don't let people come to me with questions. I say, come to me with the question and have the answers, and preferably have 3 or 4 answers, and I'll tell you, which option's the best, or, I'll help expound upon it. But ideally, I want to say yes or no, or great job, or no, let's refine that, and let's figure out how we can refine that together. But for people to just to keep coming, how do I do this? How do I do that? Like, they're never going to grow as people, as individuals, or professionally within your business. So that's a really important concept. I'm really glad you brought that up as well.
I think a lot of times our people come with how should I do this? What should I do? And we want them to come to us with ideas and why they should do it. And I think why sometimes can get a little overused in our business, but it really is a very simple question. Okay, why? Why do you think that will help? Why do you think that will make our business stronger? Why do you think that will be better for our customer? That's a really simple way to just kind of bring it back to say, if you've really thought it through, that answer, and it off the top of your, tip of your tongue. But I think it's what people focus on, the action, not the purpose.
Right, right. Um, it's easy to look at a company like yours, all the success you guys are having, the massive growth from, I mean, we're talking 8x, 10x growth, Grant Cardone type of 10x growth, and make it seem like it's easy and it's just all success after success. Tell me about some challenges that you've had along the way with your time there, either at PJ Fitzpatrick or maybe before, some things that have really challenged you in your growth or growth mindset.
Um, I think, I think ultimately when you kind of approach growth, you want to go as I always use the example when I tell my team, it's like if you ever saw When Harry Met Sally, the great line of like when you meet the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, you want the rest of your life to start now. And like when you want to grow and you want to go to a new market, you want it all. You want to be able
Now.
to be successful now. I want to be profitable now. I want to grow, create opportunities for growth for my people now. And some of the time, the situations we've gone into some markets that have been smaller markets, maybe like a tier 2 or 3 market versus like a major metro market. And we've been able to get to a successful point pretty quickly, but there's less distractions and hurdles that maybe exist in that market. So one of the big mistakes that I would say we make is when we went into the capital market, Baltimore and Washington, I wanted it all. And I wanted it all now. So we enlarged a large area. The footprint was huge. The product offerings was nearly everything. And lessons that I had learned along the way in terms of creating staggered growth that created more of a steady path for our teams locally as we expanded our services, our area, and our growth. We ran counter to that because we felt like the opportunity was so huge. And I think sometimes we will look at lessons we've learned and find the reasons why that next moment's different. And kind of that whole kind of emotional intelligence, when you frame things with positive intent, you have the opportunity to be more emotionally intelligent. Well, we find why things are different so that we can take a different path, as opposed to finding why things are similar and how we have to navigate the differences. So if I could go back, I would have taken a slower approach. I had taken slower approaches in other markets. I would do that again. We launched our CRM, and I think this is an important part for technology, because I think that's probably important to listeners of any podcast right now, because how do I bring on new technologies, automations, AI, and how can I be able to go out and properly implement them in our business? When I launched our CRM in 2021, it was like, go, rah, rah. This is the best day ever. If I could go back and I'd tell everyone, this is rock bottom. This is the worst it's ever going to be, because it was the worst day for them. And it didn't matter how much I tried to tell them it was going to be great. I wasn't giving them honesty. So I think sometimes just being willing to call a spade builds trust between you and the team, because then they realize that you're not full of hot air. So, I think not following lessons that I've learned already, because I tried to create differences in why I tried to tell myself why they were the same.
This time's different.
And not being honest with our teams about pain. Some days just stink. If you're a roofer and you're out on the roof and it's a cold, windy day, there's nothing fun about that. Don't call them it's a fun day. But figure out how you can support them and make sure they understand how much they're valued. So I think a lot of times we try to frame things positively as leaders, and sometimes we should just be a little more honest with our people. And I think sometimes we're willing to create differences in why we make decisions when they're probably just the same decision, and you should have just stuck with the same path.
Right.
But
Right.
literally, I could create 3 podcasts of my mistakes here, or my lessons here. Well, we could save that for a different time.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you back on. I was just telling my leadership team that today. We were talking about growth and just mindset, and I told them, like I wasn't born a business owner. Like I'm making every mistake in the book along the way, and still have plenty more to go. But the one thing I know is I learned from every mistake, and I'm not going to make the same mistake again. And hopefully I can avoid some by just, networking and knowing folks like you and other true thought leaders in the industry that can help you avoid some of those mistakes.
Well, you mentioned the entrepreneurial operating system. Of course, we used Scaling Up, Petra, the Vern Hardish system for that. But what it did is we plan with purpose. And by planning with purpose, we have the opportunity to be prepared for the moment. So, when we say we want to do something, we don't say we want to grow business. We want to grow business by 10% by this date. We have a lot of specifics in in how we define success. And then we spend a lot of time talking about what could get in the way. And you can keep going with that thought. But if you say, this is what I want, this is what could get in the way, there's no excuse to not be able to navigate your way through it. When we went to the moon, we were on course 1% of the time. We went tens of thousands of miles out in the space, and we were on course 1% of the time when we got there because we knew where we were going and we were willing to course correct. So why would if that simple thought was able to get us to the moon, why don't we think that can get us through the challenges that we're facing here on Earth?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, there's so many lessons, so many takeaways from everything that you've said today. I know our listeners and viewers are definitely gonna be able to implement some actual actionable items and things they can do in their company. But if you were speaking to a smaller remodeling company, maybe someone, million, $2 million, just really trying to figure it all out, what would be some of the best advice that you can give them that you haven't already, said to us today?
I would invest in technology earlier. I think technology is scary for people, but we're in an environment with whether you're a small company or a large company, the expectations of customers are far greater than they ever have been, and more of that customer that we're standing in front of is somebody that's had technology in their life throughout. So I would say invest in technology early. Invest in your people, asking them what's important to them. Because I think sometimes in small businesses, those conversations get lost. And I would tell them to slow down because they want to do everything and they want it all as soon as they can possibly get it. But taking small structured steps forward that allow you to push the business forward while not overburdening your team and ultimately yourself. Be willing to create a reasonable path to growth, and the goals that you want to achieve, and find the opportunities as you get good at what you're doing to accelerate and put your foot a little bit more on the gas. But I would, as with anything, invest in the technology so you're best representing in front of the customer. Invest in the people so that you're getting. If you don't, you're not going to get the results you want. It's really, unless you're doing the work yourself, you need to treat your people with the respect that they have and don't treat them like employees, treat them like future business owners that with better understanding will have a better tools to be able to support the customer. That's really what it's all about. If you take care of the customer, you get a chance to do it again.
Yeah, yeah, and again and again and again. Yeah, I really like that. As we kind of wind down here, James, we could sit and talk forever. Obviously, you and I both have that feeling, and I certainly want to get you back on here and maybe do a deeper dive and maybe your operational or sales methodologies. Maybe get a little more granular in how you guys are creating some success for your company, for your employees, for your customers, communities that you serve. But what's next on tap for you and PJ Fitzpatrick? Where do you see the next year or 2 or 5 years going?
Well, I mentioned, yeah, we just partnered with a company up in Long Island, so we are in the process of integrating. We're going to be, they will be a PJ Fitzpatrick office completely over the next 30 days. So that's been a big focus of late 2024 and early 2025. Well, my team is really focused on just running the business and continuing to hit the goals, hit our budget, and strive for the goals that we set. Our budget is what we expect to do. Our goals are what we strive to do. So they're staying focused on that. I'm staying a little bit more behind the scenes and getting ready for what's next. I would expect to see us put our flagpole down in probably 2 or 3 additional markets this year. I would see a couple things. I'd see us pressing against the fringes of the territories we are, taking some potentially adjacent contiguous growth in the markets where we already exist and going to the next market. And looking for opportunities that maybe change those plans and point us in other directions. But I would continue to see us expand. We did up $150 million this year. We're looking to do close to $220 million next year. And just continue to put our team in a position to be successful. I don't want to sound like arrogant when I say this, but I truly believe that when PJ Fitzpatrick comes to a market, customers win because they're going to get a higher level of service. We're going to press the other competitors in the market to catch up to the way we approach the customer experience. And listen, there's plenty of good companies out there throughout the markets we are that are already out representing customers. But when we come, customers are gonna get a pretty great company that's focused on them. Out there supporting them. So we're going to look for those moments where we can take ourselves to new markets and win. And that's also why, it's not just, in Philadelphia, where we've been for 40 years, where we have lots of reviews. I got over 1,000 reviews in Jersey, 1,000 reviews in Pittsburgh, 1,000 reviews in Harrisburg, because we're taking the time to do the right thing by people. And as a result, we've earned the right to ask for that referral, and they're in most times glad to give it to us.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when I looked up your company a while back and I saw the one Google listing with almost 10,000 reviews just on one listing, it blew me away. I was like, I tell our clients to get more reviews, that your competitors got 50 or 100 and you only got 20. And they're like, oh no, those are all fake. Those are fake reviews for a competitor. I'm like, no, they're not. 100 is just nothing. Like anyone can get that if you're doing that many jobs. And I see the call volume we send them. So I just kind of dispel that myth. And then I look at yours and I go, yeah, see right there, these guys have almost 10,000 reviews. Like it's amazing. It's really speaks to your company's dedication to not only the quality of work you're doing, but the customer service that you offer as well.
Well, we're focused on it. And we have a lot, obviously, as you heard, we have a lot of mantras and adages that we use in our business, but, focused efforts drive results is one that has come from one of our owners. Well, might have come from somebody else before, but he's the one to share with me. When we're focused on something, nothing can hold us back. And we're focused on providing a great experience for the customer, and we're focused on having them share that experience with others. So again, that would be a third piece of advice. If something matters to you, put the appropriate focus to be able to put it in the position to be successful. I think sometimes people just want things to happen for them and they hope that they'll happen. I don't hope, I ensure.
Hope is not a strategy.
No, it is not.
Yeah, I really like that can-do attitude. That's the same kind of attitude I approach life with. If I want something, I will get it. I will achieve it. I mean, obviously within reason. I'm my 4-minute mile that has left me behind. That's in the rearview mirror. But when you think about realistic goals and objectives that you can set out for your company, if you really set your mind, set your intent, and support your people, you will accomplish those goals.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, great, James. We're going to wrap here. I really, really enjoyed having you on here. I can't wait to have you on again. There's so much more we can talk about and share. So many insights that a CEO of your caliber, a company that you're running, this success. I mean, simply amazing what PJ Fitzpatrick has done. Super amazing what you've done as a CEO. It really is amazing. I think it's going to be really uplifting and inspirational for all of our viewers and listeners to really hear what you've had to say, the insights that you've shared. So I look forward to getting you back on here, but I do want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day, obviously, to spend some time here on the Home Remodeler Toolbox podcast and really sharing with the greater community.
No, thank you for having us. Some of the best lessons I've had have come from learning and listening to others, and I'm always glad to be able to be part of that cycle.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for all those of you listening in. Thanks for turning on and tuning in to the Home Remodeler Toolbox podcast. We will look forward to having you as guests on our show. If you're interested, if you're in that position of a company that's growing, has some insights to share, please don't hesitate to reach out and be a guest on our show. For our listeners, we love you. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the flip side. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Hey, if you liked our podcast, join the remodeling community and hit subscribe. We would love to hear from you, so be sure to share your thoughts on what you might want to hear about in future episodes. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, visit homeremodelerSEO.com and check out our services that can help build your foundation for success. Thanks for tuning in to the Home Remodeler Toolbox Podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.